What's going on, guys? Red Channels here, and today we're going to be talking about the Chinese app Rednote. This video goes out to my very much appreciated fan, Claudette. I know you hate TikTok and how it's ruining Americans' minds, but let's be honest, if TikTok got banned, these meltdown compilation videos would get a lot harder to make. So, anyway, back in March of 2024, this bill, the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, which was passed by Congress and signed into law by former President Biden back in April. The bill was supposed to give the White House more power to crack down on apps deemed threats to national security, specifically those controlled by foreign adversaries like China. TikTok's parent company is ByteDance, which is a Chinese company. So the bill would force ByteDance either to sell TikTok off within 180 days or face a ban from all app stores and internet service providers in the US. However, the Biden administration didn't take immediate action to actually enforce the ban on TikTok, and in that sense, pretty much just left the whole issue up to the Trump administration. However, the people running TikTok were kind of pissed anyway, and half closed down the app in the US for a couple of days around the time President Trump was being sworn in. But before we get too deep into this video, please give it a like, share it to support the channel, subscribe if you haven't already, and consider visiting this channel's first sponsor, Classic Cut Suits. Classic Cut Suits. Have you looking fresh? Have you looking sharp? Have you styling on the vintage clothing community? Holla at your boy, Classic Cut Suits. Please check out classiccutsuits.com in the description section below to make your first purchase. Without further ado, let's get into it. So ByteDance, the people running TikTok, decided to reopen it in the US after President Trump indicated his support for TikTok and also called on the Supreme Court to block the ban. In the interim period, though, between when TikTok took their site down and when it came back up, people were fiending for their entertainment. They couldn't go without their swipes and their scrolling and their little viral video dances. So, a lot of people, apparently a lot of liberals specifically, migrated over to Rednote, the Chinese version of TikTok, which they actually use in China. Now, see, China has what's called a walled garden internet, also known as the Great Firewall of China, where foreign websites are very heavily restricted, if not pretty much completely unavailable over there. The Chinese have their own versions of popular global online services like Baidu, which is their Google, WeChat, their messaging app, and Youku, which is their streaming platform. But Rednote is a little different from TikTok. It's heavily curated, and apparently the Chinese don't tolerate a lot of the same degeneracy and time wasting nonsense that you see on TikTok here in the West. Liberals were even pissed because you have to select one of two genders when you sign up. So there's no gender nonsense, there's no rainbow alphabet mafia stuff going on Rednote. So, what we've been treated to over the past couple of days is a bunch of liberals, a bunch of cultural Marxists, a bunch of crypto Fabian socialists being exposed firsthand to people who live in a country that actually identifies as communist.
Any political rights out here. We hate the shit. There's only two gender out here. Male and female. If you are gay, just be gay. Don't talk about you're gay. We all know you're gay. Just don't talk about it. If you're a lesbian, you cool. You cool. If you're LGBTQ, whatever, keep it that shit to yourself. There's no gay marriage out here. That's against the law. So keep it that shit to yourself. Don't swing that shit to someone else's daughter or son. All right?
Yeah, on paper they may be leftists, but they do not play this rainbow ideology over there in China. This is something that is sold to Westerners as a substitute, as a way for them to feel like they have identity and belonging, when really they've been displaced and alienated by the modern world, and also to make them loyal to the American government, which exports this stuff worldwide. That is now our MO on the world stage, is rainbow imperialism. And this sort of preoccupation, this fixation that many Americans, many Westerners have on their sexuality is a way that our government tries to make them loyal to the American state, to the government. Chinese people don't care. They don't have to deal with this woke nonsense. These public school teachers coming after their kids, this propaganda online, on TV, from the government, from half of our political class, if not more than that. They don't have to worry about that. They can just focus on real things. But anyway, with this whole Red Note thing, a lot of Westerners have been given the Chinese perspective on America, on the West, which is rare. We don't often have these types of cultural connections. And it's pretty funny some of the time. Like, check out this next video.
People ask me, they want to know it so bad. They want to know it so bad. They want to know, how does America sound in Chinese? In Chinese. Like how China sound in English. Well, I'll tell you what, it's very easy. It's called Meigua. Meigua. It's very easy. May is like Mayday. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I will not. Nobody knows. Gua is like Google. You put the frontal part of it and you put an option. Meigua, and you only take the art of it. Meigua, 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 Meigua. Very easy. Very easy. China, China, China. Meigua, 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 Meigua.
So I don't know. Even though it's the more obviously Chinese propaganda app, you may find something funny if you go on there. It still seems a little entertaining. I don't know. But to circle back and answer Claudette's question, a friend told me that China is like a utopia. What's going on? Well, to answer your question, Claudette, all of politics is a trade off. Now, I'm a Christian. I think man is fallen. I think there is no such thing as utopia until Christ returns on this earth. But there are some things that China does well that Western governments don't. And Western governments, as of late, have really been underperforming. I don't even need to mention Kamala Harris, okay? But now, not only are Westerners being exposed to a little bit more of Chinese culture and the Chinese perspective, the Chinese are also getting to see what woke liberals here in the West have to offer.
Because fuck you, America, for making me pay, or for making me work 4 fucking jobs, 4 jobs, while I'm in college in rural fucking Tennessee, and I can barely pay my own fucking rent, and I'm taking 19 credit hours on top of those 4 fucking jobs, and I still can't graduate on time, and I still can't graduate early, even though I'm taking 21 credit hours next semester. It's not fucking fair. It's not fucking fair anymore. It's never been fair, not in my lifetime. And will it ever be fair? No, because I'm a woman in America. My God. I just want to live in peace, America. And I will one day. Probably somewhere fucking else. Anyways, look how cute my nails are.
Anyway, to answer your question, Claudette, China is not a utopia, but there are ways that China is run that are actually superior to America and the Western world generally right now. And that is a harsh reality that people have to face up to. Both liberals and conservatives can see policies in the way that China moves, the way that China is run right now, that they could envy here in the US because of how dysfunctional our political system is at the present moment. We literally have mainstream media outlets with deep connections to the intelligence state telling us that it's a problem that violent Mexican cartels like MS-13 are getting labeled as terrorist organizations. Think about how dysfunctional that is here in the US. Think about how wrong that is. This is its own type of oppression, which, in some ways, and we've got to face up to this, we've got to face up to the harsh truths here, is worse than how the Chinese run their country, is in fact more oppressive in its own unique way. This tyranny of wokeness, this tyranny of being gaslit by your own government. Over there in China, they know who's in charge. They know Xi Jinping runs things. They know he's the boss man. They know he's head honcho. They know he's top dog. But here, we have a political class which is perfectly willing to deflect and play these games and act like it's not their fault and gaslight half of the American public into not knowing who's really got decision making power in this country. Because last time I checked, communist China didn't have an opioid epidemic. Last time I checked, the Chinese didn't have inflation through the roof in their country and were lying about the fact that they're in a recession and the price of eggs was so high. And last time I checked, communist China didn't have Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang, running through major cities like in Tennessee. In Tennessee, it's so far away from the southern border, but we can't handle that now because of the way that Democrats have run this country. That is how dire that it is. Yes, I am literally suggesting that having a country, had Kamala Harris won, having a country run in perpetuity by the Democratic Party as it stands right now would be worse than communist China. See, at least in China, their elite don't want to end the nuclear family for the sake of profit. They don't want to get your kids on cross sex hormones and then jail you when you try to do something about it. This is where we all have to take a very long look in the mirror because this is how bad things have gotten in the so called free world. And here's something else. I'm just going to go off on a tangent. Neither the left nor the right in the West has a real incentive to get people to understand the Chinese perspective because the Chinese are not leftists in the same way that white people are leftists. They're not leftists in the same way that Westerners are leftists. The Chinese system can be adequately described as Chinese nationalism walking around in the skin suit of communism. Really, at the end of the day, they're out for themselves and their own people. And communism, socialism, whatever they say they're in right now, is just a pretext for them defending their civilization. Everything they've done over the past century has been in defense of protecting the project of China. And here's something else. They're not about this kumbaya, let's hold hands and make up 50 genders and have everyone be equal business. They're about nationalizing their own industries so they have control over themselves as a nation. They're really this sort of third worldist nationalist movement that wanted to ensure that people like the British, people like the US, people like any other European power weren't coming in and messing with their industries, that they wanted to be in control of themselves. At the end of the day, they are nationalists. And people who are not nationalists, like most of the US government right now, like most of Western Europe, will fall to the wayside, will do stupid things to screw over their own people and mess stuff up and sell out their own people in a way that the Chinese just won't. And this is why they're going to be successful. And you know why they're successful? You hear horror stories. Conservatives will tell you horror stories. You know why the Chinese are doing well? Because we're sending our jobs over there. because we're giving these people our own neoliberal, leftist, free marketeer, rhino, establishment, conservatives and liberals and progressives are anyone who's not part of MAGA, anyone who's not on the Trump train. Those people are all in favor of free trade and sending jobs over there to them so they can work, so they can eat, hollowing out communities in Appalachia, in the Midwest, in the South, in any rural part of America. How many towns got drained because the mill just up and moved over to the China? I know a mill 2 towns over in my state that was bought by the Chinese and literally moved, and they just hollowed it out and moved it away. And all those jobs are gone now. That's what Western elites have given us. They're not looking out for us. And I'm not saying China's perfect by any means, but they're making sure their people have work, have income. And since Xi Jinping, their paramount leader, has been in charge, their people's incomes have grown by an order of magnitude times 10. So yeah, they're happy with him, even though they can't vote, even though they don't have Western liberal democracy or Western style individual political freedoms like we do. They're happy because they're still advancing. While meanwhile, we're stagnating with Bidenflation. So just reflect on that for a minute, even if it makes you uncomfortable. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you felt it was informative. Please give it a like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Consider going down into the description section and buying a suit or a shirt from classiccutsuits.com. Always good business there. And shout out to my most loyal patrons, Tara, William, and General Jack Ripper. And Red Channels will catch you in the next one.